E360 TV proudly presents messages of inspirational stories. Live streaming now to millions of devices, including Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, Android TV, YouTube Live, Facebook Live, with your host, Donna Guinois, producer and host, Jim Grant, producer and host, along with Michaela Vidal, administrator and host, and Gaia Guinois Balconi Wada, editor-in-chief. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for tuning in today. We're so proud to be here. Thank you so much for you folks out there in TV land for tuning in. I'm joined by Director of Marketing, Mr. Emerson Brantley. Notice I put a Mr. on that. Give him a salute back. And right before we went live, Emerson was sharing with me, because he's going through rehab, and just share what all you did today. And he ain't even he's not even wiping sweat. Go ahead, Emerson.
I feel good about it. As many of you know, I had a traumatic brain injury about a year and a half ago. Well, almost 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And have been very, very fortunate. Fact not lost on me. But earlier in the year, I began taking up swimming again and doing things. With a traumatic brain injury, you don't want to do things that you could fall down on, you know? So ellipticals and treadmills are not really my thing right now. But swimming is a good one. So I did 20 laps, and I did 150 pool push-ups at the end, doing one some at the end of each lap, and I did 75 crunches while I was there in the pool. Or not crunches, squats. Yeah. So you can't fall down in a pool. So I felt good about it, because the first day that I went back in earlier this year, I managed to get, I think, 10 or maybe 12 laps in the pool. So I'm building up stamina and the strength and everything else. And it's I shared a lane, Jim, with a gal who looked to be, I'd say, probably 6 to 7 months pregnant.
Wow.
And she was a very good swimmer. She was swimming, swimming is a great exercise.
Mm-hmm.
We know that.
Yeah.
And so it's the kind of thing. And on the other side, on the other lane next to me, were two ladies, and they were walking in the pool, back and forth, and they had baffles on their legs and on their arms to give them more resistance. Mm-hmm. And doing it sideways and leaning forward and doing it. And, you just have to applaud everything that people do, because it's so easy. And this is true. Half of the time when I call you, you're out walking the back 40 and you're out there and you're active. Mm-hmm. And it's very easy, especially for people who have disabilities. Well, I don't like using the term disability, we know, but people who have different things that affect them, pain and other factors. Mm-hmm. It's very easy to just not do it.
Yeah.
And it's a lot harder to find that zone where you can do it. And for me, I've never been a big gym exercise. I ran for a few years, but I just swimming for me puts me into a mind and clarity, and I enjoy it. And this high resistance on all of your body.
Oh yeah.
So all of it fits right in with our topic today. Mm-hmm. Mine's not so much for heart, but a lot of the new research shows the best foods that you can eat for your mind are also the best foods that you can eat for heart health.
Oh, yes, sir. Yes,
and
sir.
We'll be talking a little later about an article that I picked up here this past week.
How diabetes affects the heart.
How diabetes affects the heart, and the foods that we eat and the things that we do affect the chemistry in our body. That's what's going on there. Mm-hmm. And for me, it's more the mind health. and the brain chemistry and the things like that.
Mm-hmm.
For my wife, who's type 1 diabetic for most of her life, for her, it's that A1C and the blood sugar and all of the other deteriorating effects that diabetes has on your body.
Yes.
Including the core topic today, heart health, circulatory health.
Exactly. Exactly. I really like you sharing that about the pool, because when you were talking about the ladies and the resistance and all that, I remember that when Muhammad Ali was training, pretty much throughout his career, and I could be wrong on that, but he actually perfected his speed and punches by standing in the pool and practicing punching, and it really helped his speed and accuracy.
And accuracy, your control as you're doing it.
Yeah. Yes.
Water is complete. It completely envelops you, so you have 100% resistance on all of the different parts of your body at the same time.
Yeah. So those of you that are looking for a way to get back in shape, and maybe you don't want to overstress your knees, for example,
Right.
or ankles or something like that, or your back, you might talk with a physical therapist about getting in a pool and what you should start at, what level, and just be patient and work your way up like everything else. And before we get started today, we got some very special things on National Today we want to share. My goodness gracious. One of the things that I wanted to share, this is for all you, for my former Army, my Army family, my Army buddies. Today is your day. Today is National Beer Lovers Day. I knew a few guys in the military who enjoyed that. So today's your day, and you ought to sing 99 bottles of beer on the wall.
Jim, I was not in the military. I was in Civil Air Patrol, and involved in that for some time. But I remember we did bivouacs, and we did out on the military base here. And I was so amazed. It was a teenager's dream come true. You had beer vending machines.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. 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 Yeah.
It's like, are you kidding me?
Yeah. Yeah. When I first went in the Army, ladies and gentlemen, back in 1968, in the C rations, they actually issued with every pack of C rations an accessory pack that they always had. But inside that accessories pack was a pack of 4 cigarettes.
Yes.
They sure did.
You says with a cough.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I say that with a cough. That's a good one there. I tell you, it's really amazing how we have become a lot more educated, because the fumes and the nicotine and tar from the smoke is very bad for the heart. We all know that. And I'm not knocking anybody that smokes. I mean, that's your prerogative. But it is it's kind of funny. Back in the military, it was an accepted standard. And what do GIs do out there? When we talk about bivouac, we're talking about boonies. We're talking about being out there, and your restroom is the nearest bush or behind a bush or something like that. But, whatever you give young people, they're going to consume it. And we did. We did. We did not cheat ourselves. And today is also National Buy a Book Day. Oh, my goodness.
Day.
Yeah. And you just held up a book there about diabetes, the effect it has on the heart and all that. But buying a book, that's so important, isn't it?
Especially if there's a young person in your life to encourage them. We have something going on in culture where sitting with a physical book and turning pages and reading it is slipping away. And yet, in many cases, there's nothing that cements information or story or things like that into our brain more than including the tangible aspects of writing on paper or turning and reading a page. That's not old school, new school kind of stuff. We know when you sit and you're writing out notes and you're hearing something, and then you're speaking it, that it cements it in your brain better.
Yes.
And sitting and doing it on a keyboard you lose that direct connection with the letter. It's just another, your fingers are just moving.
Right.
And reading works the same way. Turning the page, holding the book, experiencing the physical connection that's there makes a huge difference. And for children, in their ability to learn and process and keep and understand information, it's powerful.
Oh, it really is.
It's powerful.
It really is. And you know what this day is also? This was the day back in 1860 that Grandma Moses was born.
Tell them who she was.
Yeah. Well, I got
it. Some of the viewers may not know.
Yeah. She was Anna Marie Robinson at birth, and she married a guy by the name of Thomas Moses. And I tell you right now, she started her hand at painting in her 50s.
Yes.
But she did not kick it up in the high gear till she was in her 70s. And back then, people didn't live that long. So she must have, that Grandma Moses, I mean, they probably called her great-great-great-grandma Moses by that age. But it just goes to show you that you're never too old to do what you have a passion in your heart, the gift that you have. And you owe it to yourself to have a healthy mind, a healthy heart, a healthy gut, and a healthy liver, because all of those, they work together in perfect harmony. If one gets out of balance, the other gets out of balance. It has a domino effect on the body. And so Grandma Moses, I tell you right now, she was an inspiration to a lot of people. And in 1960, Nelson Rockefeller, he was then the governor of New York, he declared this day to be Grandma Moses Day when she reached the 100-year mark. I mean, she was a self-taught artist, and if you haven't seen some of her work, you're in for a treat. And that's all I want to say there. And Emerson also today.
Then Rockefeller became vice president too later.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Yes,
Under
he did.
Ford? I think it was Ford.
Yeah, you're right. Nelson Rockefeller, he sure did. And today, you mentioned this earlier, and take a deep breath on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. There we go, because today is what, Emerson?
National Clean Air Day.
There you go. Everybody needs some clean air.
Yeah, something under the category of If You Knew Me Well. I've served on the board of directors of the National United States U.S. Green Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah, you go to the U.S. Green Chamber of Commerce and you'll see Mr. Emerson's picture there. That's amazing.
Clean air is a huge part of it. And of course, out where you live, Jim, you guys have been having in some areas out there, some pretty foul air.
Oh, yeah.
Both from some of the windstorms as well as the firestorms.
Yes, sir.
That have been taking place. And, we garbage in, garbage out, but garbage in, garbage in, because we breathe it.
Absolutely.
And when we're looking at alternative ways, which it can become very political, but when we're looking at alternative ways to drive our culture and finding ways that do not damage the air that we breathe and the water that we have. There's only a certain amount of air and a certain amount of water in the world, period.
That's right.
And if we use it for our health, that's great. If we use it as our garbage dump, you know what? Ultimately, what goes around comes around. And everything in our quality of life and everything else is affected. And if you have issues, and again, here's a little plug for what today's show is about. If you're dealing with things with the heart or brain or lungs or anything like that, having clean air and water and food and everything else, but having clean air that you're able to breathe is so important. Jim, every year, and you know this, they'll have days in some cities that they literally, people who have suffered a heart attack or lung illness or have some other type of illness just have to shut the doors and windows and stay inside, because if they go outside, it will end up shortening their life or killing them.
Oh, yeah. My wife is an allergy asthmatic, and
Oh, wow.
when she was younger, not so much now, but when she was younger, uh, she'd get an allergy, and very easily that could turn into asthma. And
Yes.
I've had to taken her to the get her emergency room, take her to the emergency room or a clinic that can treat her on the spot. And because the fluid starts building up in the little tubes in the lungs, and when there's fluid there, there's no way you can get any air.
Yeah.
And it's just all those things have a domino effect, and it puts extra stress on the heart. And
I suffered terribly with asthma as a child and outgrew it, thank God. And allergies. I had over 250 allergies as a child. And
we tested Ev one time at an allergy clinic. I don't know how much this did for her. This was back in the about 85, 86, somewhere there, 1985, 1986. Had her tested for, I forget how many. And it was only like 3 things she wasn't allergic to or had some reaction to. We started a series of allergy shots, and it probably contributed to her building up immunity, but she still has to keep her medication and her nebulizer and all that stuff nearby, just in the event that she has an attack. And usually it's very mild, which we're very thankful. And I'm going to finish up one final thing here. This is National Feel the Love Day. Oh my goodness gracious. That's right. There you go. You got to love yourself first before you can love anybody else. But we're talking about the true agape type of love that we have for one another, as far as family and friends, the pure type of love. And a lot of times we confuse that with the physical or lustful type of love, but we're talking about the pure agape type of love that we should have for each other. And we should look at every human being on planet Earth as just being brothers and sisters by different mothers.
You left off National Acorn Squash Day, although I'm going to take the acorn out and just say National Hard Squash Day, because if you don't cook with squash and throw it into your food, you are missing some great flavors and textures and nutrients and everything else.
Yeah, because you are a fantastic cook. I saw that and I experienced that when we were all in Tomball at Marty Haggard's event. And I tell you right now, those were some of the best meals, as far as interesting meals, delicious meals. Oh my goodness gracious. Every time I think about it, I still drool like a hound dog at a picnic.
I tell you what, that salmon we had was some kind of good. It's amazing what you can do, and we didn't even have all the right stuff to do it, but we had a grill and we had some salmon and we got some ginger sesame soy seasoning or salad dressing. I think we used, because we didn't have all of the stuff that we needed. But there wasn't any left, was there?
No, we were all wolfing it down. I can guarantee you that. Ladies and gentlemen, earlier in the week, the very first show, Donna and I, we covered about the causes of, heart attack, or heart conditions, heart disease. And then yesterday's show, we focused a little bit on the widowmaker, and I emphasized that the widowmaker is hereditary. And I did not know that. And that's because I fell under that belief that if my cholesterol was good, my bad cholesterol was 76 2 years before I had my heart attack. After I had my heart attack in the hospital, it was only 96. So by the medical standard, I should be good to go. Blood pressure was always great. But my brother had the widowmaker. He had the heart attack back in 2012. He had 2 bypasses. And it's just amazing to me that even though he went to a well-known, and I'm not going to mention the clinic, but if everybody's heard of it, and that's where they perform the surgery, because they do a lot of open heart surgeries. And do not be afraid of it, because I did not have any pain after the surgery. And that's what others that I attended cardio rehab with, I asked them, they had bypasses. One guy had 5. I didn't have any pain either. So don't live in fear.
It's changed so much.
Oh my goodness gracious. Yeah.
I had a sister-in-law who had 5 open heart surgeries.
Mm.
I had an uncle who had 3 or either 4. His first one in the 70s took 25 hours. 25 hours with a team.
Wow.
His second one is going into the mid 80s. His second one took half the time, 12 hours.
Mm.
The last one that he had took them either 4 or 5 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And they've got it down even from that.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, because when I went in there, they were going to put stents in. This is one thing I want to mention. It's very, very critical. If heart disease runs in your family, make an appointment with your medical doctor and just say, hey, heart disease runs in my family. I have been told that the widowmaker is hereditary, and I don't know what kind of condition I'm in, but I'd like to get an appointment. You set me up an appointment with a cardiologist and go in and get tested, talk to the cardiologist, because that widowmaker, after I had my heart attack on a Friday night, had it on Halloween night at midnight, I was in the hospital Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday. They ran a total of 67 tests on me. Now, every time they take your blood pressure, they register that as a test. Every time they come in and draw blood from the back of your hands, which they did every 6 hours, that's another test. So that's how that number ticked up. My point being is that through all of that stay, with all these things hooked to me, I had oxygen little tubes around my nose. I had a blood pressure. I had an IV in one arm with the saline, the other IV in the other arm with blood thinner. The EKGs, all this had about 6 different things hooked to me throughout the entire weekend. The widowmaker never once raised its head. It's when I went in for the stents, they said, oh, you're going to need a stent. You're going to feel great, yada, yada, yada. And I get in there and he says, the cardiologist told me, he says, stents won't work for you. He said, you need open heart surgery, you need bypass surgery. He said, we got to do it today. We can't put this off. He says, you got over 90% blockage. He says, we cannot turn you loose. We got to get this done. So it's okay. But my point being is that if there's any doubt in your mind, go to the cardiologist and say, hey, I want to perform the test to see what condition my heart's in. Because the only way that widowmaker showed up was after they put the dye in there and they were going to put the stents in, and they realized, we got a problem.
Well, and I can encourage everybody too. I did a fair amount of work in the DNA space, and one of the things that you can request, you can get the $59.99 or whatever is little DNA thing that says, oh, you're 60% from this region and 20% from this region. But if you go ahead and pay their upcharge or whatever, you can get a medical report based on your DNA that will, I'm not going to say anything is 100% accurate, but it may alert you to factors you were not even aware of. Mm-hmm. There are many people watching who may not know anybody directly in their family who, that as far as had a heart condition or heart attack or anything like that, or a widowmaker, particular kind of heart attack like Jim is talking about. But in many cases, the DNA medical spectrum will show them if you have the markers for it. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't take the place of going to see a cardiologist and getting the proper tests done to validate that. But it may give you a heads up on something you were totally unaware of. Mm-hmm. And it's important. We have these tools at our disposal. No other generation in the history of the world has had the diagnostic ability to peer into the human body and see things before they happen, like we do. And they're getting better and better and better and better. They just finished. They finished a few years back identifying all of the different DNA, the genetic markers for our body. They just since the beginning of the year, identified all of the I don't remember how many millions upon millions of proteins that there are.
Mm-hmm.
And they used artificial intelligence to map out and predict the different protein combination molecules, and then we're able to match it up and do it
Mm-hmm.
that way. So they shortcut all of that process.
Mm-hmm.
The proteins are involved in the DNA, RNA, and all of the different aspects of that.
Mm-hmm.
So all of the, if you're like me, Jim, before I ever was involved in that deeply, I thought protein, that's like a protein shake. What's protein? But there's millions of proteins.
Yes.
And each
Yes.
protein is directly connected with the DNA, the RNA, the brain, your brain chemistry, all of these different aspects. So as they begin to look at these spectrums and look at these markers, they can begin to identify different aspects
Yes.
of things that you may not even be aware of, the sleepers in your body that you may or may not be aware of. And it's not to scare you. It's to say, this is something you probably want to go and check. This is something you may not be aware of. This is something to go and have additional tests done and just find out where you stand. I mean,
go ahead.
We've no other generation in the history of the world has had that at your disposal. And literally, DNA testing, basic DNA testing is, like I said, about $50, $60, $90, something like that. For I think it's average is a couple of $100. You can get these other spectrums done and really get an idea. I mean, it's nice to know that 20% of me comes from here and 10% from here, and I've got a 2% connection here, and I've got this different stuff in my genetics. So isn't that interesting? But what's really, really interesting and what is useful is when we have something that is applicable in your life to help improve the quality of your life.
Amen.
Now it's not just something that's, kind of trendy or whatever. Now it's something that can give you advance notice, heads up, and everything else so that you can take some of the steps that we're going to talk about in the next half hour, right?
Absolutely.
We're going to be talking about.
Yes, sir. But I also want to pick up on something, couple of things that you mentioned. Number one, most heart attack victims who wind up in the ER, when I say most, about 70%, the University of California did a study on this. It was released back in 2009. And it said that most heart attack patients who wind up in the ER, they were just like me. Blood pressure great, cholesterol levels great, no red flags, in other words. And when you're actually experiencing a heart attack, when I got into the ER room, they took my blood pressure. It was 190 over 111. And that's, you're getting into a danger zone there.
You're in stroke territory there.
Yes, you are. Stroke. That's what they told me, is you're in danger of having a stroke or a very severe heart attack, because your heart is a muscle that pumps, and with the blockages inside the veins there, it's trying to squeeze and get through, kind of like a miner trying to mine through there. And what it does, it releases a protein that Emerson was talking about, troponin, Troponin. I believe that's the way it's spelled. And when they take a blood test, that's what they're searching for, that particular protein. When they saw that, they knew I had a heart condition, and they immediately gave me 4 aspirins. He told me, drink it right now, and I did. And immediately put the little nitroglycerin pill in between
under your tongue,
under my tongue. Yeah, thank you. And in a few minutes, it just dissipated all the pressure and discomfort. I had burning sensation in my chest, kind of like, I guess, acid reflux or whatever, because I've never had that. But my point being, a lot of medical doctors disagree with those percentages, but the problem with that is, ladies and gentlemen, when you wind up in an ER with a heart attack, they don't call your medical doctor.
No.
They call the cardiologist. The medical doctor never sees the patient. And so that's why they're still, because I asked them, my medical doctor, and asked another doctor, I said, was there any kind of test I could have taken that would have shown that I had the widowmaker in my heart, and women can get the widowmaker too. It's just they call it the widowmaker, but that's the name they gave it. But I mean, don't think it's just limited in men. It does not discriminate, and it's a very serious heart condition that you need to be aware of. Be proactive rather than reactive.
That's the way to think about it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I want to mention some of the survivors. We hear a lot of survivor stories. There's a lot of people that have survived heart attacks. In fact, I think it's in the AARP article that we looked at earlier. I want to scroll down here. It may not be in that one. Let's see here. It's in one of the articles that we took a look at. But my point being is that over 60% of the people back in the 70s survived a heart attack, and that has just continued to rise and rise and rise. So if you do have a heart attack, or if you do have to have open heart surgery or anything like that, do not let worry, just jump out all over you, because all that does is it's going to destroy a lot of your good healing energy inside. You're going to worry. I mean, we all worry about things from time to time. It's perfectly normal, perfectly human, perfectly natural, but 95% of our worries don't ever come through. Things we're worried about and all that. But
and what's important in the AARP articles, which I encourage everybody to check out these articles. I think you're going to post some of these, I think, in the marquee there. But the AARP article, one of them talks about the differences between men and women. We all are aware of a tightness of the chest or numbness in the left arm and things like that. Women have different symptoms than men do, and it's not that pronounced, but it's just as serious.
Oh yeah,
feeling of heartburn that just won't go away, and fatigue and stuff like that are some of the things that women experience. And if in doubt, check it out. Right?
Yeah, because one of the most common signs that men and women will experience is the lack of energy and the shortness of breath. And I had those, and I did not realize it, because we went to Galveston Island back in September of 2021. And, I was doing okay. And then in October, the first part of October, we went to a festival. And looking back, I didn't see it, but my wife and my daughter says, we noticed a difference in you, Dad. You tired out quicker. Yeah. And in my mind, I just said, well, I'd rather sit here and watch people go by as opposed to walk around. That's how we're always looking for a way to justify that we're okay, or, we don't have any problems. And when I think back about it, I was the bag man. That's the reason why they invite me to go, let's be honest. And when they'd be shopping, they go, okay, Dad, we take these bags to the truck. I'd carry those bags, walk down that long road, across this field into this pasture is what it was, a cow pasture, down at the very bottom to the truck. And I put the bags in the truck and come back all the way up and all that. And of course, I was a little tired, but I figured, well, you should be tired. It's hot, and you had a long walk there and all that. But I was thinking, my goodness gracious, thank you. Thank you to the Senior in the sky. I didn't have a heart attack then, because if I had, I could have been in real serious trouble.
You'd been out in the middle of a parking lot field all by yourself and nobody even around.
And with these cell phones, you get out there in the sunlight, I can't see anything. So I would have been down for the count. So I'm very thankful.
AARP actually has a story of one woman who was experiencing heartburn and some other things like that. And her husband is taking her to the hospital, and the symptoms kind of faded. And she said, well, let's turn around and go back home. And he intelligently, he went ahead and took her, and she had 90% blockage.
Yeah.
So the symptoms don't, if there's one thing to keep in mind, when in doubt, check it out. It doesn't, it may be a hassle. It may take time. It may be something, what the very best thing that you can possibly have happen when you have something like that and you go to the doctor is for him to say, well, we've looked at everything and we really don't see anything wrong. Okay, great. I just spent 5 hours to find out nothing was wrong. That's great.
Yeah, exactly. Because that way that you know.
Yes.
I remember back in the 70s, I think it was, there was a lady, her and her family were going to go on vacation, and she had read something, or somehow she thought, well, she had cancer runs in her family, but she thought, I've got cancer. And it just consumed her to the point that she said they canceled the family vacation. She went to the doctor, had some tests, and then found out that what she thought she had, the symptoms were something else, less, life threatening. But my point being, there was the worry factor. But whenever you have any type of chest pressure, any type of burning sensation, any type of discomfort,
Severe heartburn that just doesn't go away.
Yeah, go to the ER ASAP. And I'll tell you why. Two good reasons. One, when my wife was checking my blood pressure, it was high, and I thought, oh, there's something wrong with this thing. She says, she tried it, says, working fine. Well, a little blood pressure thing at her house. And I laid there for a while, and I had her check it again. It was a little bit higher, and I said, I must get this thing checked out. And by the time I got to the ER, which was about 20 minutes later from the last time I had my blood pressure checked, it was like 180 something over 70, or no, over 86.
And by the ER, folks, we also mean there are a number of doc-in-a-box ERs now that are freestanding. It doesn't necessarily have to be a hospital 30 miles away.
Right. But
they have the ability to do a lot of the tests that we're talking about because these are common things that they need. They may not be able to do, a
surgery,
an MRI and things like that on you, but they can do things and see really quickly if something's askew there.
Yeah, because like I said, they drew the blood, they looked for that particular protein, troponin, and that's when they know, hey, this guy, because that's what the heart releases. That's the particular protein the heart releases when it's trying to squeeze blood through these blockages. It's like a little miner, and they're trying to, take an ice pick and pick its way through.
Well, and there's another aspect too. It's if you keep that image of squeezing the blood through, how hard the heart is having to work to do that.
Amen.
The other aspect of that is many people run around literally dehydrated. They don't drink enough water. I'm not talking about everything else that we drink, but water, because water is a very unique substance. Oh, and I could talk for 20 minutes probably about the uniqueness of water, of all of the different combinations of elements that we have. But one of the elements of it is it leaches better than anything else. You could say it's corrosive more than anything else. So that's why water flowing over a period of many years will cut whole canyons, because it leaches out from the walls of or the rocks that it's going through. Well, in the same way as taking toxins out of our body. But the other thing that water does is it keeps your blood at a certain viscosity level.
Right.
When your blood gets too thick, now, thick is because you're dehydrated, right? So the blood is thicker. Your heart is having to work harder to push that same blood. Yeah. So the simple thing of just drinking enough water during the day is often enough to help alleviate some of the things that can lead to the type of severe issue that Jim ended up having, just because the heart doesn't have to be working as hard.
Absolutely.
So my dad, God love him, my dad was 375 when I was a kid. And he had congestive heart failure 2 or 3 times before he died back in the early 80s. But congestive heart failure, literally, the heart swells and the sac around the heart is filled with fluid, and the heart is just doing everything it can just to pump the blood.
Yes.
That's congestive heart failure.
Yes,
and
it
that's
is.
Another whole issue that can take place.
Oh,
so one of the things that we can do, we all know diet and exercise and things like that. Interestingly enough, there's a lot of new changes in what they suggest for the diets, but with a balanced diet, with regular exercise, you don't have to be pumping iron to do this, with keeping your liquids your intake so that you're not dehydrated.
Right.
A lot of these things are things that can make it easier for your heart just to do what it's supposed to do.
Yeah.
And like anything else, hey, you put too much air into a tire, you pop the tire. Right? If your heart's having to push so hard to get something through, you end up having little blowouts there too, you know?
Yeah, something's got to give.
Aneurysms in the sides of a wall, of a vein or of an artery. That can be, if it's in the brain, that's a stroke, you know? But all of these things, some of them are genetic, inherited, and things that we can't control. But there's things that we can control. And if you know the things that you can control, then the question becomes, okay, and I'm a big believer in moderation, Jim. I mean, that doesn't mean that you can't ever have a slice of cheesecake. You can't ever have a glass of wine. But there's the moderation in it is a factor only to the extent that you're trying to do things the rest of the time that are good heart health, brain health. This is another whole show we got to have, Jim, is on brain.
Know? He talks about brain health. That's going to, I'll be an excellent.
We'll have to have Donna on when we do that, and I'll be on it. But then we'll also branch over into Alzheimer's and all. But an awful lot of these things come down to simple stuff. When we say diet and exercise, it's not about eating cardboard and working out with 5 hours a day. There's simple things we can do. 5 years ago, I made a decision to get a stand-up desk. Okay. Now for about a month, I just used boxes just to see how I could do it. And I had to sit down about every 10 minutes, And then I finally got the stand-up desk, and I had the kind that I could up, raise, and lower. And for about a month, I would lower it every so often. But pretty soon, I didn't want to be sitting down. When I sat down, I would end up at the end of the day wiped out, worn out, tired, sore, everything else. We met having to do with public speaking and training and things like that. So as I would go and speak at conferences and events around the world, I just got where I would be standing the whole time back at the back. I couldn't sit in the chairs for 8 hours a day.
Oh, we're going to cover that in just a moment about long periods of sitting, how harmful that is. But
that's simple stuff. Just standing. Just standing at my desk is working muscles, core muscles, and things like that. You're shifting balance and doing things, and all of those, and that affects balance and things like that. I just went through an hour of PT today having to do with balance after having a traumatic brain injury. These are things that they're little things. Do you remember the thing I did in that intense training on marketing that I did about it's the incremental? And I had everybody hold their hand up like this. It's the incremental things that we do, not necessarily the big, humongous things that we do, like going and pump an iron for 5 hours, and it's the incremental things that we do, but we do them consistently. Over and over and over again.
You're exactly right. And one thing I want to finish up on there real quickly is that the beauty in going in as soon as you feel any type of chest pressure or anything like that, go into a medical facility, ER room, whatever it might be.
Definitely.
They can test in the blood for that protein. They can give you 4 aspirins or whatever they decide to give you, and they'll give you the nitro. That opens up everything, and that decreases. But that finished a heart attack for me. It went right away. I felt fine after that. My point being, why that's important is that I did not suffer any heart muscle damage. Because once you get over the hump of the heart condition, whatever put you in there, guess what? That heart damage, the muscle's been damaged. It's permanently damaged. Think of it, look at it like it will paralyze your heart. Look at it like that. And
you don't have to have a pacemaker.
And they did
somebody else may have had to have had a pacemaker.
They did an ultrasound on me, and it says, hey, your heart's in great condition. And I said, well, I guess it's because I responded quickly, but I just knew that whatever's going on, this has been my attitude in life. Let's face it. Let's just go ahead and face it, because, once we face it, then we can deal with it. And we were talking about long periods of sitting. Oh my goodness gracious. Research that they have found that long periods of sitting is tied directly to higher risk of stroke.
Mm-hmm.
And that is because you're not fluid, you're not moving. Because when I speak, I cannot speak sitting down. I've got to be standing. And I want to be able to migrate down closer to the audience so I can connect with them, rather than stand behind a podium or something like that, because a podium is a barrier. My point being, sitting, I know a lot of people in their jobs, they sit a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got to compensate that by doing some exercise and getting in a pool, like what Emerson was talking about earlier. That is some of the greatest resistance training that you can do for your body that doesn't stress the joints.
Oh, you have resistance on every square inch of your skin.
Yeah.
It's equal resistance all the way around. You can't fall. You can't hurt yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Even if all you do, like the lady next to, I shared a lane with a lady who was probably, I think, 6 or 7 months pregnant. And we were just swimming. And then laying next to us, there were a couple of ladies. And all they were doing was walking. They were walking in the water. They had, a couple of them had like floats on their arms or legs to give more resistance. More resistance as they were walking, because you're building those core. Most of the things we think about is gym exercises, weights and things like that. They're all about the big outer muscles in our body. But underneath those muscles are dozens of tiny little muscles. Think a muscle so small that it's connecting 2 vertebrae together. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
And on top of that are these big broad ones across your back. But when you stand, you're constantly shifting your weight. You're constantly moving. You're constantly doing something, even if you're standing still, looking at a screen like I am right now. And that little difference is huge.
Amen.
It is huge.
It sure is.
Working it. And when you work a muscle, you're not just, strength training or whatever. That's part of it. But there's blood flow that's involved. There's stretching and releasing that's involved, so you stay limber. So all of these things affect your physical health, your heart health, your mental health, everything else.
It really does. And it's really important to be able to, plus it helps keep you limber, because gravity is always pulling us down. And when you sit in a chair,
oh my goodness,
your spine is really getting collapsed. And that's it really, especially the lower back. My goodness gracious. I stretch a lot during the day. I like to go into the bedroom and plop on the edge of the bed and stretch. And I can feel, the gas or whatever it is get released back there, hear the popping and all, and it makes me feel better. And of course, I'll enjoy walking.
Now some of the viewers might not know what kind of gas you're talking about releasing there, Jim.
Yeah, but it's the
popping
noise
in your joints.
Yeah,
you have all of this little gas. I think nitrogen is a big part of it, and that's why deep divers can get the bends if they come up too fast. All of this little, when a chiropractor adjusts you, or when you twist your neck and you hear it pop, what's happening is it's releasing these little pockets of gas that the body will build up in there.
Yeah. And whatever gas it is, look at it like it's all natural and it's all good. We'll just say
there's some natural and there's some good that I don't want to be around, Jim. And that's something that I don't have a problem with.
Another nice thing, if you're experiencing back, since we're talking a little bit about that, is lie down on the bed and let one leg, let's say if you're laying on your back, your left leg is hanging off the edge of the bed, okay? That your heel is almost to the floor. It might be on the floor, but then your right leg, you bend it and put your hands around your knee and you pull it up. That is a great stretch for the back. I do that a lot too, because I'm 74 and mentally I'm 47 because I'm dyslexic. But that's what I tease people about. but realistically, everything that you can do to keep moving, everything that you can, because it good blood flow with the hydration Emerson was talking about, that even benefits the inflammation in your body.
And inflammation is huge in
Oh yeah.
so many areas of disease,
We're
not
going to be
just the
covering
heart,
more.
the
We're going to be
liver,
covering more about that tomorrow.
all sorts of areas of disease, and just simple stuff like, okay, maybe you really like white bread. Try switching over to a whole wheat bread.
Yeah.
Just some simple stuff. Give it some tries, okay? And leafy greens. Throwing interesting stuff into your salad. Not just iceberg lettuce. Go and get some kale. Go and get some other stuff and throw in there. Leafy greens and things like that. I spent most of my life not realizing, like mushrooms. I thought mushrooms were just kind of a good thing to have on a pizza or something, but they're loaded with minerals and all sorts of other nutrients.
Oh yeah.
That your body needs. But nuts, preferably not cooked raw, but I mean, even cooked gives you some value. Olive oil. Olive oil has amazing characteristics to it. It's not just oil. Okay.
Right.
Okay, like any other oil, but it actually has some amazing characteristics to it that are anti-inflammatory. So when eating a good oily fish like a salmon, or a steelhead or something like that. Yeah, that there are a lot of little things that we can add into it, and you don't just have to fry it.
Oh no!
I grew up in the South. I like a good fried fish, but fried fish, fried oysters, and things like that. But when I do salmon, the salmon that I did in Tomball, we took those two big slabs of salmon and we threw them on that grill, and that grill, Jim, didn't. We were in an Airbnb. That grill didn't look like anybody had ever used it, did it?
Yeah, we sure did.
We sure did, yeah.
So if you got some salmon, just invite Emerson over to your house and just let him prepare it for you. And that's the cat's meow right there.
But if you eat more poultry than you do red meat, and there are reasons why there's a difference, and the difference doesn't just affect your weight or affect your cholesterol. There's inflammatory issues. There's all sorts of other things they're discovering that in your diet. And trust me on this. We're going to have people writing us, talking about how, we're pushing vegetarian and all this, which I'm not. Okay. I enjoy having meat.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't say it. But you know what? Over the last 10 years, I would say, because of specific health issues, especially for my wife, but we probably get 80% of our protein from vegetables now. Yeah. We didn't set out to do it. We like meat.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm sorry if that offends people who are vegetarian or vegan. But the thing about this is you can do these things and you can do them in moderation. And even those little things make a big difference.
Really
make
do.
A huge difference.
And we're getting kind of close on time.
Yes, we are.
About a minute and 20 seconds left or so. But I wanted to just share something with you. My wife brought home some kale here recently. We've had it several times.
Oh, yeah.
And she takes kale, she puts the olive oil on it, and she, it's not real complicated or anything like it. She puts it into the oven and bakes it.
Yes.
And I'm telling you,
that's
good. A nice little tasty treat. Yeah. Because I looked at that first time and I thought, what is that, rabbit food? Shows you how smart that I am.
Cauliflower and Brussels sprouts are good that way too. We do that too.
Yeah. So check out, recipes online.
There's so many.
Oh yeah. Experiment with it, because tomorrow when we come back, we're going to talk about fighting inflation, because that's a big part of it, because everything has a domino effect. And we want to thank you folks out there in TV land for tuning in. Most importantly, the information that we're sharing here, this is information we found on the internet. Please get with a dietitian and get with your medical doctor, get with your cardiologist, and just ask questions. Find out what's the best answer for you. And our time is gone, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be back tomorrow. But remember to love yourself first, then you can love others. Most importantly, give yourself grace and just understand you are worthy to be loved. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.